Yo, internet, what's up? Okay, so this one's very much from the hip. There is no script, so it'll be sloppy. Apologies. But I just wanted to get some ideas out. And this is all signal boost stuff. These are all ideas that exist currently. These are all the tools that I'm aware of that I feel are useful for getting your elbow to stay up and not collapse horizontally. So we'll start with the longest winded one. The longest one is my video on explaining vertical shoulder collapse with 256. There's I'll put links to all these in the description, but that is the idea that if my elbow slot is right here and I don't have a counterweight and I lose my counterweight, I'm going to get vertical shoulder collapse that way because my spine angle changes to flat, and I'm doing this deadlift motion to get to power my throw, which is usually on accident. And it happens because you don't have the rear leg in the counterweight position, rear leg counterweight. You can stay in balance here if you have good balance. You can stay in balance there without the counterweight. You're always going to stand back up. So if you stand back up, you lose your hyzer angle and you also lose, what would that be? Upper arm elevation. I don't know if that's the right term. Probably not. So that's the most complicated one. You can go watch that video if you want more on that. Other ideas we have that are super useful. Seabass just put out a video. I'm looking at a still of it. It's called Power Pocket Hit and Perpetually Longer Swing Drills. And he's not talking about this cue, but he has you throw here in the beginning of that video. So it's forehand wrist mechanics on a backhand. So what is this going to accomplish? It's going to be very difficult for me to want to come down to this position and then throw. So this naturally keeps your elbow up at the slot where we want it. Your hit is going to be weird because we're mixing mechanical ideologies here, but that is a tool to get you to feel a more mechanically advantageous elbow slot. Do I have a ball here somewhere? I should. I don't. I do, back corner. So, Neil from Stepwise Disc Golf came up with another brilliant way of getting to exactly the same thing. He has videos where he's throwing a tennis ball or something into a net here. That's exactly the same thing. It's keeping your upper arm aggressively in internal rotation. This is internal, this is external. If you're throwing a ball upside down like this, it's going to force your elbow well into internal rotation. Boom. So that does exactly the same thing. A client, not even, I don't think it was even a client. I think it was just a person I was working with online. He was struggling to get to 300 feet, couldn't do it. And all of a sudden he got this idea. What if I just throw like this? His problem was his elbow was dripping. Dripping? Yeah, his elbow was dripping. That's not good. So he just said, okay, well, what if I just put my fingers on top of the disc and my thumb on the bottom? That's going to put my elbow and my shoulder into internal rotation. And this throwing like that off of it, so it's a thumber technically, I guess. That was the first time he broke 300 because his elbow was on a better plane. So 3 people, same cue. Throw from strong internal rotation from the shoulder. Seabass, my internet friend, and Neil. Same idea. So 3 people came at it from different angles. It is probably a good idea. I know it's a good idea. But that just forces your elbow into the position that we want it in rather than the position we don't want it in. So those are 3 really good options. Now, signal boost for Jonathan, who just put out a new video on elbow slot stuff, but he's looking at it in terms of how the elbow slot relates to the scapula. Neil from Stepwise Disc Golf also has a video on this topic. I believe it's exactly the same thing mechanically that's happening, but Neil didn't have the specificity that Jonathan does talking about it. So I just wanted to chime in on those and see if I can add my thoughts to what is actually happening in the effect that Jonathan is describing. So he has you get to this position where there's a lot of anatomy. I'm sorry. So your scapula is a roughly triangle shaped thing on your back. So my scapula on my right side is kind of sort of shaped like that. And it can elevate, it can depress, it can, what's it called? Neil, help me out. What's it called? Protract and retract. There we go. So when you protract, your scapula actually slides around your rib cage this way, and then when you retract, it slides back and towards the center. So if you were gonna pinch the skin on your spine, not under your hair, that would be retraction. Elevation, depression, protraction, retraction. And it can also do more complicated things, which I don't remember the anatomical words for, but it can rotate this way to allow this bone to go. So if I stay in depression, this is as high as my humerus bone, my upper arm bone, can go. If I want my elbow to go higher, my shoulder blade needs to rotate upwards. Those all work in combination, so you can go up and protract, and it gets complicated real quick. So Neil's cue for that was just protract. I also have a video on that. It was a signal boost for Neil stuff. Short version, if you protract and then press into a wall, you have much better structure in your shoulder. If you come back to neutral or even retract, then you don't have good structure and you're going to collapse the shoulder joint. So that's Neil's thing. What Jonathan added to that was intentionally, you get here, and you intentionally let the shoulder blade slide so that you can get the elbow even higher, and then keep that protract. And then that's he calls it this locked position, which absolutely makes sense. Because here, when I get that working, I can't collapse. There is structure here. I don't know what it is, but a combination of compression on the front side and extension in the back, stretching in the back, where I can't get my elbow as if I roll over it. Now I can get my elbow on my chest. So that's Jonathan's locked elbow position. And he says there's two ways to get there. One, you can get there mechanically by intentionally letting your shoulder blade translate rotationally, and then keeping it there and getting your elbow back to a more reasonable slot. I think this is the same thing that Neil is getting to, just with protraction. Maybe not quite, but they're related. They're close. So I do not have a degree in anatomy. I would like to get one. Maybe that is what I will do with the next few years of my life. But anyways, this is an armchair internet guy's understanding of anatomy. So don't trust me. Go do your own research. Check it out. But another friend of mine recently had a PT appointment and learned a little bit about his serratus muscle. So serratus anterior. They're fingers essentially that go this way that come down and connect to a number of ribs here. So that's that side of the connection. The other connection is, here's your shoulder blade, right? Triangle. Those muscle fibers connect to the inside under edge of your shoulder blade. So as you are x-ray visioning at my shoulder blade on the right side here, so here's my triangle, they're going to connect to the rib cage side on the inside and underside of that shoulder blade. Complicated. So muscles are always, what they do is always relatively complicated, but I think one of the main functions of those muscles is they pull your shoulder blade around your rib cage. So when I protract, I have to contract serratus anterior because I'm moving the inside of my shoulder blade towards those fingers on my rib, and I'm contracting that muscle. And they also, I think, help with rotating the shoulder blade out. So if you are someone whose shoulder blades wing a lot, which is if I were to do this motion and my shoulder blades, so if you're looking at my back, my shoulder blades, if my shoulder blades wing, they're going to fly out like this, where you can get a handhold like under someone's shoulder blade, because here's their rib cage, here's their back. If the blade lifts off of the rib cage, the inside edge lifts off the rib cage a bunch, that's winging. And serratus anterior is what fights that winging. So it keeps your shoulder blade close to your rib cage when you do these forward type movements. So I think this is the armchair part where I'm just hypothesizing and I do not know for sure. I think having an active serratus anterior is what part of what helps create this locked position. There could also just be a mechanical thing going on where your bone structure gets in a position where it's not likely to collapse, whereas once you get under that, it is easier to collapse. But I think that's part of what's going on. This explanation sounded better in my head and worse now that I'm talking it out. But hopefully this is enough to start a conversation and get some folks that know anatomy better than me to chime in and figure out what's going on. But I think that muscle serratus is pretty important to how we want to use our shoulder optimally. And it's not as simple as protract or retract. There's, Jonathan made it pretty clear, and you can play around with this and feel it, that like there's a position I can get to there where it is locked. This is not going to collapse as easy. So play around with it, see if you can find that. If you know anatomy better than all of us, please drop in the comments and let us know what's going on. But go check out Jonathan's video. It's new. And I'll put links to all this stuff and you can cross-reference all of them. But I think all of these tools together give us a pretty good chance of solving this elbow drop problem more efficiently than we have been able to in the past. And of course, the biggest cue to fix this is Neil's cue again of having some internal rotation. So I'm thinking about this now as I want to have internal rotation and I want to have internally rotating momentum going into my center position. I'm not using the PP word anymore. I'm just trying to say center position. Because I want your preconceived notions of what that is to be set aside so we can build a new one that's more effective. So Neil came up with the idea, absolutely all credit to him. The things that I'm trying to add to that are, one is this, just start in this like silly person bicep curl position and be aware this is external rotation and this is internal rotation. So if I go from external to internal, where I care about it in my center position, back to external, you can think about it palm up, palm down, palm up, or to take the palm out of it and just focus on the rotation here. I can be in this position. So here I'm in external, then I come to my center position, I'm in internal, and then I go back to external as a getting to the follow through position. So that is a weird cue that I'm adding to the situation. That's just conceptualizing things. And then a more useful cue, I think, is the high five yourself thing. So you put one hand here, and then you're going to go from palm up to palm down, high five, back to palm up in your follow. And then you want to get to where you can do that with fluidity and not be controlling your upper arm. Forearm, excuse me, not be controlling your forearm, but be driving your elbow and internal rotation. So you're driving your elbow forward with horizontal upper arm abduction, and you're also driving your shoulder joint into internal rotation. So if I just drive in internal rotation, it's external, internal, external. So that's the shoulder rotation. Here, here, here. And then if I add, what's the next part? Just flop it. Go from here to there. So elbow drive, elbow drive. That's the other part. So boom and external, internal, external. You do those both at the same time, and you get that. So you want to be reasonably comfortable doing that. You don't have to go crazy. Don't rip your arm off, but about that fast. And feel how there's a bounce here that comes back to external rotation. Then be aware that is the feel. Up to down to up. Or stamp up to stamp in at your chest to stamp up again. But then when you go at speed, the shoulder rotation, boom, is still going to happen. So here I'm external, internal, but the disc didn't move. And then external again, but again the disc didn't move. So this flight plate change isn't really going to happen as much. But the rotation of the shoulder that moves the elbow hinge from this way to this way back to kind of sort of that way is still going to be there at speed. So that's just an overview of all of the tools that we have to conceptualize a better swing plane and feel a better swing plane in terms of the elbow slot. So go check out Jonathan's video. Sorry, a lot of names to remember. Go check out Jonathan's video. For sure, that's the new one. Neil's protraction video you've probably already seen, but go check it out if you haven't. And I'll link to Seabass's new Power Pocket thing just so you can see him doing that as well. Okay, internet, good luck. Fix your elbows so I don't have to. And then sign up on the Patreon to work on the next part. See you.